Happy Friday, everybody. This is Crystal with Rolling Out. It's Crystal Rolling Out, and it's a Friday reality check. We're here with a very important reality check because today we're going to talk about mental health awareness. I'm really excited about today's guest. This interview has been a long time coming. She is one of the music industry's pioneers. She's been a part of some of the biggest acts in the business, and people know her as being one of the top A&R and just really overall music aficionados. Black music would not be the same without this woman. And she recently launched a campaign called Silence the Shame to talk about mental health awareness, which has really shocked the music industry and really got a lot of people talking and other people having a conversation that I don't know we would have had without her input. So please help me welcome Shanti Das.
Hi.
Hey, Shanti.
How are you, Crystal?
I'm good. Welcome. Happy Friday. How are you today?
I'm doing pretty good. You know, the rain is oftentimes tough because it puts you in a, gloomy kind of mood, but I'm feeling good. I just got off of a wellness session that Essence did. So right. I'm ready to continue empowering with Rolling Out and with you. So thank you.
Nice. Well, I'm a huge supporter of Silence the Shame and just the conversation, because like I said, I think, the entertainment industry is a place where people really don't talk about this type of thing. People, a lot of time minorities don't talk about it at all, but especially in entertainment where everything is supposed to be flashy and fly and everybody's supposed to be perfect. For people to be able to open up and really talk about what's going on behind all the edited photos and all the glitz and glamour, I really think it was courageous, for you to do that. Can you tell people a little bit about your story and why you felt impelled to start Silence the Shame?
Sure. So thank you for your kind words as well. I appreciate that. It's never easy to share your story, but I am comfortable with sharing it now. So my dad took his own life when I was 7 months old, and growing up in African-American culture, we didn't talk about it a lot. And we didn't talk about it at all, quite honestly. And I had two siblings, so I would see my mom crying, but didn't really know what was what. I knew she was sad about my dad's death and his suicide. But again, we never shared. We never went to a counselor. So fast forward, I have this great career in the entertainment industry. And as I started experiencing with more stress and anxiety, and you know how that can be in this industry, whether it's directly related to someone you're working with or just the workload and the hours. And we didn't talk about self-care, right? Back then, like especially in the 90s when I was coming up in the 2000 decade, wellness just wasn't a thing. Right. It was always team no sleep. The harder you worked, the longer hours you worked, the more you were respected, so to speak. And a lot just started happening to me. My mom developed Alzheimer's, and I just, was working in, a few hostile, environments, and it just got more difficult for me to learn how to process through those feelings. And so I also started unpacking a lot of what had happened with my dad. And, Crystal, I was always afraid that when things got tough for me, that suicide might be something that I would contemplate. Right. And in 2014, my best friend took her own life. And then in 2015, that's when things kind of took a turn for me. I was still, working and moving about, but I was high functioning. I was definitely depressed. I wasn't seeing a therapist. And that's when I started seriously thinking about taking my own life. Thank God I did not. I got the help that I needed. I called the Suicide Prevention Lifeline, which is 1-800-273-TALK. And then I also texted with my pastor, and he was like, I'll pray with you, but you got to go to the doctor. Right. So once I got that help, I was like, you know what? We got to talk about this more, right? We had heard a few people talking about it, but in 2016, it wasn't really spoken about a lot. And I just came up with this hashtag and got my mega horn, if you will, and, tried to start talking about it. And it's been a blessing to see how many, musicians of color and some of my colleagues, that were really open and wanted that conversation, right? Whether it was on social media or it was events that we started doing. So I'm happy to do this work, and I'm glad that we're like raising the awareness of it. But I also want to make sure that as people learn more about it, Crystal, that they actually follow through and get help. Right. Because awareness is one thing, but then it's like, okay, what is that call to action? Like, are people, are they definitely going to go and seek the help that they need? Right. Well, I think a big part of it is the campaign that you started with Silence the Shame, because I think people felt
if you can't handle it, something's wrong with you, right?
Mhm,
If you
right.
feel like you're overwhelmed, because I definitely, can relate to that even before being in entertainment, just being overwhelmed sometimes, but feeling like other people are able to handle this because it looks like they can, right? So when you came out, I mean, for all practical purposes, everyone looks at you like you had the perfect career. So for you to say something like that, I think it gave people a right to be like, oh wow, if someone like Shanti can acknowledge this, I can acknowledge it as well. I want to ask you, because I had a great conversation with Michelle Williams, and I saw that she's a part of the campaign with you, and she talked very candidly about her own struggle, and she mentioned that even though when she was with Destiny's Child, it made it a lot. It I guess confounded it a lot. I mean,
yeah, and probably exacerbated the problem.
exacerbated, absolutely. Yeah. But she had always dealt with it, and just not really always dealt with depression and always dealt with this, and then being in this spotlight just caused her to have to really deal with it. Do you feel like you had there were instances before you became the high-powered A&R that you knew that you didn't really handle stress well or anxiety well?
So, and just a quick little clarification. I actually did marketing, not A&R.
Okay,
but
my bad.
No, it's all good. I just don't, it's so many great A&Rs out there. I wasn't an A&R. But so to your point and your question, it really didn't start catching up with me until I started dealing with a lot of stress and trauma.
Right.
I think in the workplace, and even just stress and trauma on my body. Because you know how it was. We lived out of a suitcase. You go to the office, and then afterwards you go to dinner, and you got to go to the club, and then after that you might go to an A&R session, right, to hear a listening, to a little listening party to hear an album. And so I just felt like I was neglecting a lot of my own physical care that led to a lot of the stress. And then, once you get kind of successful, because I was like a kid running off adrenaline. I knew I wanted to work in music. But then once I got the success, right, or at least a taste of it, then sometimes you sit there and you go, okay, let me just take a look at my life and let me see and process through, how things are, how I feel about what's going on. And also the sacrifice to my family, not being able to be there at times. So I would get stressed and anxious when I would have to miss, birthday parties and different things that my nieces and nephews were doing. So I would say it happened more as I probably entered into my early 30s. Right. And I started learning more about emotional health and wellness. Because again, when you're young, you're just going and you don't really, although I will say this generation, the millennials now, I think, look at mental health and they understand it a little bit better because it has been somewhat normalized. But back then, girl, we didn't talk about it.
You don't think about it. Can you speak a little bit to the difference? Because I think people hear therapy, and like you said, it's a great thing to be aware of it, but then actually taking the step to go make the appointment and to sit down and to be receptive to going through therapy. Because I know people that have talked about it, but they haven't, and they might have went to one or two sessions. I remember when I first was going, I went through a divorce that was horrible, and I went to one session and I felt like I was better and I did not go back. Years later, I had to return. So can you talk a little bit about the process of actually being open to therapy and how that feels, how that can feel so very different, just being able to have that outlet?
Yeah, so it's funny. I have a similar story to yours. So when I went through my first bout of anxiety, and which I now think was depression, it was in 2001 when I had moved to New York City, or either 2002. But anyway, so I went to see a therapist for about 2 or 3, maybe 3 or 4 months, and then I stopped. Yeah. And I was like, oh, I'm good. And I just kind of went back to the same old. And then, things started happening, years later, and I realized I probably still needed it. So the first thing about even being willing to go see someone is just having an open mind. It's like anything else. When you try something new, or if you go on that first date, you might be nervous or scared. Or if you finding a new OBGYN or, primary healthcare physician, you got to go and kind of feel them out and see what kind of bedside manner they have. The one thing I tell people about therapy, you got to try a couple of times. It kind of, it's maybe like dating. You got to swipe and keep going. Because I've definitely been to a couple of therapists that I felt like didn't get me. And not that it was a waste of time. It's just, I didn't feel like I was gaining anything from it. And so there were moments where I was like, you know what, maybe I don't need this.
Mm-hmm.
And I had to kind of talk to my friends and talk to people that really cared about me, that, you know, especially my sister, who unfortunately she passed away last year.
Mm-hmm.
So now it's even a little bit more harder for me, not having my biggest cheerleader here to say, go do that, go take care of yourself. That's why I'm so grateful to this movement and to all the strangers and people that come up to me. I mean, I got to tell you, it's so humbling, whether it's a DM message or I might be walking in Target or walking through the airport and they'll go, "You the Silence of Shame lady." But I say that in the most humbling way. Like, people are reaching out, they're listening to what we're saying, and they're being okay with going to therapy. And so I would just say to you, like, you know, go on websites like therapyforblackgirls.com or psychologytoday.com or betterhelp.com. You put in your name and your information. You can even give, you know, your interests, your nationality. If you're looking for a clinician of color, they can help you through those processes. So give yourself permission to feel through what it takes to find the right therapist. Like, don't get frustrated. And if you feel like, you know, you go for the first time and it didn't work for you, don't give up on it. Don't throw in the towel, because it can really be an asset to your health and wellness for the rest of your life.
Absolutely. Absolutely. That's a good point. And I think it is like finding the right fit, you know, because at first I thought I didn't want to go to someone that that I could connect with, because it was a little bit embarrassing. And then I realized, you know, I've got to find someone that is a good fit for me and that I can learn from. Tell me, did you expect the response that you had from the industry? Because watching the campaign, people were so receptive. A lot of your peers, and I'm sure artists that you've worked with over the years, came out and were supportive. And I mean, just really jumped behind the movement. I think that speaks to the fact that people really needed to hear this type of thing, especially in entertainment. Were you at all surprised by the response you got?
So that's a great question. So we first did this in 2017. So it's been 3 years now. And we hadn't even formed really the foundation yet. We didn't have our 501c3. And I just said, you know, I'm going to make up my own day. And so I chose May 5th, not even realizing that it was Cinco de Mayo in my head. But I said, okay, we're going to create this little graphic for Instagram. And see if a few people will post. And I thought, you know, some of my friends and colleagues, maybe, you know, family members would post. But girl, when we received 90 million impressions that day.
Wow, that's huge.
I cried. Because I was like, wow, like, you know, because mental health, again, still, even in 2016, 2017, people were slowly starting to talk about it. But I was so embarrassed to tell my peers and people I worked with in the industry that I seriously thought about taking my own life. I mean, it was terrifying. And there were times where I would be uneasy. You know, I would see you out and see people out, and you know, as confident as I am, I love myself, and I don't, you know, live my life based on what other people think, but I'm human, right? So even sometimes going in those settings, like, I would withdraw a little bit because I was like, gosh, do I even belong in this space anymore? You know, is it, Shanti, that's just your past and leave it there? So when the community embraced it, it was just such a big sigh of relief. And it was like a weight lifted off my shoulders, like, whoo, I can finally, you know, be who I am right now. And I still think that, yes, I'm music industry veteran, Shanti from LaFace, Arista, Universal, all of that. But now God has just placed me on a different path. And the fact that I can honor this path and new ministry now, and it doesn't mean that one life is different than the next life. I think it was all a setup for this, right? Because people in the mental health community have often asked me, like, well, how did you get this momentum? And I said, you know, really, it's just God's blessings and grace that I could tap back into what I learned. Because I often feel like the way I marketed it was like a record, like I'm putting out an album.
That your instincts came back, but I think that was the genius part of it, because I think it takes people to see someone like yourself, because like I definitely see you around, and we've worked together before, and you just, you know, this business is, everyone is so slow to be honest about how they feel. You know, I know, you know, artists that are dealing with things that they can't share, you know, because it'll mess up their image. And me being a publicist, our job is to kind of hide all that, you know. So if someone is dealing with something, we make a big deal of keeping it in the closet. And so I think that's why it really did take someone in this business, for even other people that are not in the entertainment industry, to be able to say, wow, if they can acknowledge it, you know. I mean, you had Nick Cannon, you know, when you first came out wearing a t-shirt
That was 2016. That was even before National Silence to Shame Day. I did a soft launch in May of 2016. And it's funny, I ran into him, I want to say it was Grammy week in Los Angeles. So it was February of 2016. And I said, hey, Nick, we were just catching up because I hadn't seen him since the Universal days. And I was like, I have this mental health movement. I would love your support. And we just started talking and sharing experiences of how other family members within both of our families had experienced some challenges before. And he was like, let's do it because I support that cause. And I didn't have a real team behind me then, but even the fact that someone like a Nick Cannon early on was like, yeah, I'll support you. Like that meant so much. And then you fast forward to having artists like a Carrie Hilson who spoke on a panel that was presented by this TV series, Giants, and XO Nicole. It was her first time ever sharing about her depression because she and I had been in Bermuda together, I think it was, at an event, and I shared with her a lot of personal stuff. And so she felt like my organization was a safe place and space to open up and share. And we've also talked to like Big Crit and Royce 5'9" and so many other artists now, Michelle Williams and Seven Streeter, and the list goes on. And it is just great now that people are opening up and sharing and empowering, especially communities of color and musicians of color. It's okay to get help. It's nothing to be embarrassed about.
Absolutely. Well, I think it's a great. Tell us about. I know you have the campaign is going on. You have DJ Scratch, I think, getting ready to do some stuff with you. Tell people what's going on and how they can get involved and donate to the cause.
Okay, thank you. So, we're just coming off the heels of National Silence to Shame Day, which was Tuesday. And I came up with this idea to get some DJs to help us virtually because, of course, we're all big fans of D-Nice and Club Quarantine. And I said, let me see if some other DJs will come on board, and support us in this mission. So we kicked it off last weekend with DJ Trauma. We had Brian Michael Cox, Dallas Austin, Jermaine Dupri. It's been so amazing. Last night we had Flex and Shanice. So we had E-Class and Mars. And so anyway, so today we have Scratch coming up on his IG page from 3 to 4 o'clock. And then later we have DJ Envy, who's going to do a set from 9 to 10. And then tonight, movie producer Will Packer, aka DJ Will Power, and his wife Heather, they're doing something tonight. And then tomorrow we have DJ Fly Guy. We have Kwame doing a set in the morning for his breakfast series that he does. And we cap it off on Sunday with Frank Ski, and it's called Dance to Donate. And you can, if you can't, jump on the lives, you can certainly support our mission and our efforts to increase funding and resources and operations for our organization by texting the word silence to 707-070, or you can go to our website at silencetoshame.com. And then just from a resource perspective, I would just add, you can click on our website under resources and get links to other organizations that can lead you to, finding the right therapist and so forth. And also we have a podcast on iTunes, Google Play, and SoundCloud. We have over 30 episodes up, really, really great conversations that I think you will find empowering. And also on our YouTube channel at Silence to Shame TV, we just released a webinar that we did on coping with grief and loss during the pandemic.
Nice.
Which is important right now because so many people are losing loved ones. So please, utilize our resources. Follow us at Silence the Shame on Instagram, and on Facebook, it's at Silence TH Shame. Oh, and you can also go on Facebook and donate. We're now a part of the fundraising organizations on Facebook. So you can just find our organization and do a fundraiser for your birthday or for your anniversary or whatever.
Very nice. Yeah. That's awesome, Shanti. Congratulations on all of that. I did want to ask you one more question. That is just that, right now with everybody going through this pandemic with COVID virus, and a lot of people, like you said, are losing loved ones. And then there's just this feeling of being disconnected because we can't see each other. I haven't seen my friends in probably a month and a half, maybe a little bit more than that. And a lot of people really rely on that social connection to keep their spirits up. What advice can you give people that may be dealing with just feeling isolated and alone and allowing that feeling to make them go through a little bit of depression?
That's a great question. And even for me, like I'm getting a little antsy because Mother's Day is coming up. And so my mom is in a facility. She's Alzheimer's, as I mentioned, in North Carolina. We can't go see her. I have to FaceTime with her. And those people that are living alone or feeling we call those symbolic losses, loss of identity, loss of physical connectivity where you can't really go and see your friends. So I know we're probably tired of the virtual platforms, but you got to reach out. You still got to utilize FaceTime. You have to utilize Zoom. So I'm hoping that families will have some Zoom celebrations for their mothers and grandparents and aunties. You know, again, I'm certainly looking forward to FaceTiming with my mom. You know, the other thing that you can do is just, you know, get out. And if you're by yourself, just take some time for yourself. Take a walk, exercise. You have to do some things that put you in a different place, especially if it's going to be a sunny weekend. Get outside. Vitamin D helps a lot in terms of putting us in a better mood. So if you're feeling down and depressed and anxious, you know, that's great. The other thing too is there's some wonderful apps out there that help you with meditation. I know for me, at first I was like, I'm not doing no meditation. I can't figure it out. But there's some great apps that help you. Like it's called one is called Insight Timer. Headspace is another one. Calm is another one. There's one called Smiling Mind. And then where are my notes? I just learned about 2 the other day that were made from African-American developers that actually cater to communities of color. So one is called Liberate, and the other one is called Eternal Sunshine. And again, just if you're feeling lonely, call somebody. And what's cool too is, you know, how many times do we just text somebody, hey, how you doing? Or we might post, we feel like we keep up with people just because we see them on Facebook.
Like a picture, and that's how we kind of let them know we support them.
But pick up the phone and call them, or write somebody a letter. Let's get some of the old ways of communicating, because back in the day, we only had landlines. There was no texting, and there was no Facebook. And sometimes if you just call somebody you hadn't talked to in a long time, you don't know how that will brighten their day. And just have a real conversation. Because the other thing too is, I read on Instagram, someone said, we're not all in the same boat. We're in the same storm. So you don't know what that next person is experiencing. So yes, we're all in the storm of COVID-19, but we're not in the same boat. So jump in somebody else's boat and see how they're doing.
Very nice. Very nice. I had a Zoom conversation with some girlfriends from high school, and I didn't realize how much that would lift my own spirits. You know, sometimes you're not even realizing that you need that pick me up as well.
That's right.
Thank you for just great information. You guys, definitely, we want to jump off so you can get on Silence the Shame, the page with DJ Scratch here at 3 o'clock.
It's on his page.
On his page. So at DJ Scratch. At 3 o'clock on Instagram. And then you guys can follow at Silence the Same. Sarita's been putting everything in the comments here so everybody can keep up with all that great information. Again, salute to you, Shanti, just on having the courage to come out and do this. It's affecting so many people's lives in your business and outside of the business. I see people's response to it. It was so needed. And again, that was just a very brave thing to do. So we salute you. We thank you for that. And we will definitely be supporting through the rest of the week. Looking forward to Sunday with Frankie. That should be fun.
Thank you. Yeah, that's going to be a lot of fun. And follow me on Instagram at ShantiDas404. I forgot to mention with my Wellness series, I started this platform where I talk to celebrities. So you can go on YouTube at Wellness to see past conversations. I talked to Common and Swiss earlier this week, but today I'm talking to G Herbo. So that's a whole different demo and audience for me. So all the young folks tune in at 4 o'clock at ShantiDas404 on IG.
I did want to ask you about the conversations with Common and Swiss Beats. We'll have to go check those out. Definitely going to be some gems there. Thank you so much, Shanti, and much love to you. And we will see you next time. You guys follow Shanti at ShantiDas404 on Instagram. This has been Christal Jordan with a mental health reality check. Thank you for tuning in, and we'll see you next week.
Bye. Thanks.